What up? Wade here. Welcome back to the Wade Alter Show. So today I got another great interview for you with a good friend named Max Hertan. And so he's got a very unique story from the fact that he's built multiple successful businesses. I think his current advertising agency has over 19 employees. It's a multi-seven-figure business. And we get into a little bit of the mindset of a successful entrepreneur. But I think what happened was really interesting. It was about a year ago, he came to me, he's like, dude, I've decided I'm going to keep that going, his core business going. But on top of that, I want to build a YouTube channel. I want to have a personal brand, and I'm going to build it from scratch. He didn't have any sort of brand going into it. He didn't leverage his business at all. He's like, I'm just going to commit for the next 12 months and see what happens here. He'll tell the story throughout this podcast where he went from zero. It took about 6 months to get his first 1,000 subscribers for his YouTube channel. And since then, he's saying now he averages 1,000 new subscribers a day. And this is in under a year. He's over 50,000 subscribers at this point, hundreds of thousands of views. And so I love it. If you're the type of person who's like, I'd love to start a personal brand, but I don't know where to start. Here's a great example of somebody that has a great strategy, a great mindset. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun. He's a great friend as well. So sit back, relax, and as always, enjoy. All right, Max, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Cool. So yeah, as we're kind of talking pre-interview here, I really love your story because, I don't know, I guess a lot of the friends that I have are people that I would consider in the influencer space. They've been doing it for a really long time. You know, even though you've been like a very successful entrepreneur, you really just kind of came up with the idea. We'll get into your story, but for me, it's just kind of like about a year ago, you're like, yeah, I'm going to, build this YouTube channel. And like, other than unless somebody went like straight viral and got pure luck, like yours is one of the fastest channels I've ever seen grow. And it's like, I love how you had a very strategic game plan from the start. And I know so many of my clients or fans out there are like, oh, I'd love to start a brand or a personal brand or become an influencer, but it's just so hard nowadays. And I think you really show that it's actually just a little bit of hard work and some awesome strategy. It's totally possible. So you cool to get into that?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Awesome. That's a big hype. So we'll see what kind of happens here.
Yeah.
But I guess, yeah, kind of give me the story of how you came up with the idea and like, yeah, kind of the initial stages.
Cool. Yeah. So I guess I was running my business. It was going really well. I did have a bit of time where I wanted to devote it to another project. And there's a lot of reasons why I wanted to start the personal brand. Some of them were a little bit unclarified, but essentially I thought, number one, it would be a really good way to give back a lot of the things that I've learned. And so I could find a lot of value in the work that I'm doing, inspire others, pass on a message. Number two, it could connect me to really interesting people. So I've got to speak to a couple of my idols, like business idols, like a guy like Noah Kagan. I got to interview him. We ended up chatting for 2 hours. Other people, if I read a book, I can reach out to the author and actually have them on my show, which has been pretty cool. And then just interesting opportunities that it might lead to. And actually today, this morning, I got a request for a guy wanting to pay me to come to Thailand to speak at a seminar that he's hosting. It's like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu seminar and then like goals and achievement in the afternoon. And he wanted me to come down. So there's just random things like that come from having a personal brand because you're putting yourself out there and the people that align to your values and your message want to be part of that. And so, yeah, I guess it was 14 months ago when I decided to start it.
Yeah, the next question I kind of had was like, how do you choose your niche? And I know there was strategy, like, I guess kind of like a little bit backstory. Like, so Max has a, what would you call it? Digital marketing agency of sorts. That's How many employees do you have?
We got 19.
19 employees. So obviously it's a big company. But what I love about this is like, people would hear that and go, oh, so you just leverage that? And it's like, no, this is something you completely built, like not incorporating that whatsoever. But I know that like you picked your niche because you're like, okay, this could scale. And so I'd love to kind of go in some of your ideas about how you kind of thought about what you go into and what it is. Yeah, to kind of dive into that.
Definitely. So, I mean, on that digital marketing agency, I'd say like it definitely was a grind. And it was very comparable to like starting my business and just that grind period of just like, it's nothing. You're putting in heaps of effort. No one's noticing. But just on determining a niche, I wanted to do something that was like authentic and true to myself. So something that I would feel like I would maybe want to do anyway. So, a lot of people might like to do book reviews because they're reading the books anyway. Or, whatever it is, they're interviewing people that they really like because they'd like to do that anyway. And something that's really core to who I am is I love learning new skills and acquiring new skills. It's something that I've always done in my life. I haven't been necessarily as structured as I'm doing it right now, but I thought that the core component of my channel would be me doing something new every month and learning a new skill. So that way, if I wanted to, this month I'm doing EDM music production. It's something I've wanted to do forever. I find it like an overwhelmingly hard task to start, but it's something that I'd love to deep dive into. And I find it super interesting to watch people acquire new skills, see how fast just anyone can progress in just a month. And so that's kind of the concept of my channel, which is learn a new skill every 30 days and show that journey. And then on top of that, I wanted to do interviews with really interesting people because I find that interesting. And I guess my angle on that is talking about creating goals, mindsets, and some productivity hacks and things around that. So I try to delve into somewhere that maybe these people don't always talk about. And then also decoding some of the best lessons that I've learned from the books that I'm reading for building my business and things like that. And so I guess, that's my angle. But I really think the thing that can differentiate me is I'm the guy that does the 38-day challenges, I guess.
And I know like we've talked a lot as you've been building the channel, just like one-on-one. And you had a lot of models that you could follow for other guys that had kind of similar channels or brands. You do that sort of market research ahead of time? Or was that just something you're like, this is what I want to do? Because I think as a side tangent, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. So many people are like, in my world especially, they're like, I love self-development. I'm going to create a channel about self-development. It's like, go for it. But I'm also going to say like, that's a tough thing to jump into. It's hard to kind of get started. So I just would wonder your kind of like, just your thoughts on those two sides of things.
Yeah, definitely. So I think seeing the success of other channels that were similar enough to mine and seeing how quickly they became popular was definitely some of that market research where I go, okay, there's a want for this. It's not just me that wants this type of content. And I also just thought I would love a channel like this. Like I knew that if I stumbled upon my channel and it was someone else doing that, I would love that content. And yeah, I'd say that those were the biggest things. But I definitely do think that doing that research is important. And then I guess I also, when I started this, I said, I'm going to commit for 12 months. So I'm going to do this for definitely 12 challenges, 12 months. I'm going to try to get it as good as I can in 12 months. And at that point, I'll reassess. And I can always pivot the type of content that I'm creating at that point. And I've got feedback and I understand what's working. But I wanted to commit for at least 12 months and then go from there.
Nice. Yeah, I was just doing an interview with Chris Reynolds, who you connected us, I think. And so it was interesting talking to him about the podcast medium. And something that I realized as I kind of like started a brand from scratch round 2 versus round 1 is like so much like the early mistakes people make is they just kind of dabble in all of them. And they're kind of, I'll do a little bit on Facebook. I'll do a little bit on YouTube. I'll do a little bit of podcasting. And because of that, it's like they never really crack the code on the traffic game. So it's cool to hear you as well. Just be like, I'm going to commit a full year to this. Actually, yeah, that was another question I had related to. I mean, might as well. I want to go in kind of the stages that you went through. But first, in this early stage, what was your thought on monetization? Because, some people would look at what you're doing and they're like, well, how are you going to monetize it? And that would actually hold them back. So I guess, what were your thoughts in the early stages there?
Yeah, I think for me, my position was lucky in the sense that monetization wasn't important and I could put in a lot of time into this project without thinking about monetization. But my plan was, I guess now, if I didn't have my business in the background, I would start to look at monetization now and start to build a course around like goal achievement and things like that with the credibility that I've built. But for the most part, I haven't really thought about monetization. And the truth is at this point, if I spent time on monetizing my channel, I'd probably get more value spending more time in my marketing agency. So it's not something that I'm super concerned with, but eventually I would like it to be a profitable venture.
Nice. Yeah, I think, we've talked about this too. It's like, if you have 100,000 YouTube subscribers, like it's almost impossible. Like if you understand anything about sales, marketing, or conversion, like you're not going to have a challenge. Like just having a big enough brand, the social proof, you could sell protein powder or whatever at that point and kind of turn it into something. But I think it's that, like from the movie, The Social Network, where like Sean Parker's like, don't kill it too early or whatever he says, like, it's cool, keep it cool. And I think that's the other, especially I feel YouTube, like there's such engaged fans, I feel, that whenever all of a sudden you're like, now I'm selling you something, they're like, ooh, because they're like, like the guy on TV doesn't try to all of a sudden be like, now go to my website or something like that, So I think it's smart to kind of, you're going to grow your brand faster. It's kind of like play the short game, the long game. The longer you play the game, the faster you get that growth because you get that good growth, right? Have you noticed
Although
that?
I guess, I guess actually one thing I would say though is I am actually looking at building like an entrepreneur school as just with a friend as a side kind of business. And then I already have the audience now where we turn it into a digital course and we can sell it to the channel. I've got a physical product business. We can sell that to the channel. So it definitely, even if I'm not specifically thinking about monetizing it, any other opportunities that come up. For example, I love the content that you're putting out. You've put out a new course and I love it. I feel that my audience would love it, then I can sell it. And then, we can work out an affiliate commission. So there's a lot of things that even if you're not specifically thinking about focusing on the monetization, those opportunities will come because you've got an audience that trusts what you're saying and you can kind of put out the things that are valuable to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got kind of interesting question for you here. Like, it's interesting because you have multiple successful businesses. And even like when you're just talking about like, well, I don't want to monetize here with this thing because I could just put more focus on this other thing and like I have a much higher sort of lever of creating income or profit or something. Do you view this as like a business or do you view this as a project? And how does this like fit in when you're like distinguishing time between this thing or that thing and the next thing?
Yeah, I guess I view this as probably a passion first and a business second. But like my just general philosophy about these projects is you can do things better and bigger if you make it profitable. So if we start selling courses, then I can reinvest all of that money back into the growth of the channel. And so that way, instead of growing at whatever I'm growing at, 1,000 subscribers a day, I could get that up to 5,000 subscribers a day. And so by adding in those revenue streams, it will only be able to increase my exposure and my audience. And therefore I can do like more good for the world and meet more interesting people. So I definitely want to make it a profitable business at some point, but it's definitely a passion first for me at this point.
Mm-hmm. And how much time would you think you're spending like on a weekly basis on like building the YouTube channel?
Probably a couple hours a day, I'd say.
Okay. So it's as close to a full-time thing with everything else as everything else sort of thing. Like, are you allotting as much here as with the other businesses and stuff too? Or is this?
Yes, but it's specifically because my content that I'm producing is so time intensive. So if I do a challenge and I'm learning how to skateboard, I'll be skateboarding an hour or 90 minutes a day. With this EDM challenge, I've reached out to a bunch of different producers. I'm trying to figure out Ableton. I'll be doing courses. It just takes a lot of time to do that. So I guess my channel is specifically time consuming more so than others.
Yeah, but I guess if you're counting like work in quotations as like DJing for this month.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think I'd love to kind of, the thing I was most excited about is like, I think we've even talked about this before, but like Casey Neistat has like, I think it was his 10 millionth subscriber video. And he's like, yo, like 1 million was so much harder than 10 million. 100,000 was so much harder than a million. 10,000 was so much harder than 100,000. He's like, the first 1,000 is so hard. And so like you literally, this time 12 months ago had 0 subscribers. And now the fact that you're growing at 1,000 a day is just out of control. So I'd love to hear kind of like, how did you go from 0, I guess not 0 to 1, like Peter Thiel style, but like 0 to that first like 1,000? What did that look like?
Yeah.
And kind of lessons for some people that are most likely in that early stage.
Definitely. So it was a grind, firstly. Like it was a serious grind. I think it maybe was like 6 months until I got my first 1,000. And, now 14 months in, I'm at 50,000. And it wasn't necessarily I hit this hockey stick point. It was just that I learned so much more about YouTube as I spent more and more time on it because I was constantly researching and learning. And so I'd say the first 1,000, I honestly wasn't too concerned about subscribers when starting. I was just trying to make my content better. And so I was trying to figure out, I was putting my content in front of as many smart people as I could. I was researching about what makes good content, what makes it engaging. How do you create an open loop where you start a question in the person's mind and then they want that answered? How do you make your edits faster and more interesting? How do you make the grading color of your video a little bit better? Just what can I do to make my content more interesting? How do I become more personable and energetic and authentic on camera as well? And so that was really my focus at first, because there's no point really pushing out my content as aggressively as I could until I felt like the content was good enough to draw people in. And if you've only got 1 or 5 videos, there's not a lot to subscribe for. But now when you've got, now I've got my 14th challenge being uploaded now and a bunch of other content, there's a reason people want to stick around and they totally get the feel of the channel. But some of the things that I did to get some traction was, number 1, post it on my personal Facebook page. Any friend that was willing to share it, get them to share it. Posted a lot of content on Facebook groups as well. Tried to make sure it was really relevant. Posting on Reddit was something that was really valuable for me, making sure you get the right subreddit, potentially even leveraging people with high karma accounts to post on your behalf, and then getting all of your friends to upvote it and comment on it. That definitely got some really good traction in my early days. I even did some giveaways as well, where I gave away prizes. In exchange, you had to subscribe to the channel using an app called Viral Sweep, which is really good for that. I was trying commenting on other videos as well, and then trying to get friends to upvote those comments on other videos so I could have the top comment on a similar video, and therefore traffic might look at that comment, come to my channel. There's so many just different little tactics and tricks that I did just to get every subscriber. And then every time they would comment, I'd leave a really thoughtful and detailed comment back just to really engage with that first 1,000 so that they would tell their friends, that they would spread the word of the channel. But it definitely was a grind.
I love that. Yeah, I was just literally talking with potential client an hour ago. And he was, never had a business before and stuff like that. And I was just saying the importance of the 10X rule, how it's you see it from the outside and it looks like, oh yeah, maybe I'll throw my video in a couple of Facebook groups or something like that. But for whatever reason, your stuff always came up on my Facebook newsfeed. And I saw you grind into it, Facebook groups, or all of a sudden you do a video on Ray Dalio and you're like, hey Ray, check out this video I made of you. And I'm trying to it, to try to get, some more recognition. Hopefully these people realize it. But it's literally now you're not paying attention to all 1,000 of them. But for that first 1,000, it's almost like each one of those people. And really, I think, a lot of people are held back by that. They're oh, I want something to scale, or how can I just throw some Facebook ads at it and get more people, or where can I just post it? And it's no, the way that you do this is literally one person at a time in those early days. Would you agree?
Definitely. I remember one piece of advice that I got was, if anyone DM'd me in Instagram or just left a comment, then you can just send them a video back. And it's a really simple way to respond to them. On Instagram, you can even just hold down a button and it just starts recording a video straight away. So if someone says, dude, I love your videos, thanks for your videos, then I respond back in a video. I'd be dude, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And now they're getting a fun little video message from the person that they took the time to reach out to. And they've spent the effort in reaching out to me and thanking me for my content. And so I think that video hits really hard and is much more likely to create a better connection with those people. So that was something that I started doing as well. But yeah, it definitely was creating those one-on-one connections. And, when I was doing all of these strategies, I was happy if each one got me 5, 10 subscribers. I just wanted to create some traction and get some people looking at the videos and then go from there.
Mm-hmm. I love that. What was the next sort of turning point? At some point, it's the skateboard video, right? But it's was that the next sort of boom, or was there something else, a kind of big sort of leveling up before then?
Yeah, the skateboarding video was really big for the channel. So it did really well on Reddit. It got 600, 700 upvotes on the R videos subreddit. So it was the first video that just really connected with a lot of people, and it was just easier to promote. And then I think also people started sharing that video as well. And it kind of died down at around 15, 20,000 views. And then just out of nowhere, started getting 3,000 to 5,000 views a day. And that was bringing in 30, 40 subscribers a day. So that was a big kind of moment for the channel. I think being on Reddit, if you do well on Reddit, then people find the video and they start sharing it as well. I also did a promotion at the time. And one of the things to actually enter the promotion was to watch that skateboarding video. And I think that would have improved the watch time on that video as well, which would have again signaled to YouTube, hey, we should share this. And I think I even made it, they have a skateboarding topic channel kind of thing that can go on people's homepage. And so I went onto that skateboarding topic. So that drove a lot of traffic as well. And so that's still by far my most popular video. So that was a really big.
How many views does it have now?
Somewhere around 450,000.
Nice. Yeah, it's interesting with that. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. It's breaking down YouTube channels. You could break, this is life. It's just the 80-20, right? And kind of the fractal of 80-20, 80-20. So it's any channel that looks, it's a healthy viewership. You have good consistent views for every video. And then there's just 2 or 3 that are like more than 10x more, where they have like, okay, if you have 100,000 subs, there's just those 2 videos. One is like 2 million, one is 4 million. If you look at anyone from like a Peter McKinnon or I mean, anyone like, Casey Neistat, like the ones where he's like snowboarding in the New York City and stuff. And of course, the whole challenge is like, or the sort of futility aspect of that is like, you never know which one it is. And like, you're kind of relying on luck and virality. What's just kind of your take on that? And like, when that happened, what did you do with that specifically? I mean, you talked about how you're like, hey, you took it and ran with it. But then moving forward, how you're like, okay, how can we recreate this again?
Yeah, I guess my kind of strategy behind it is I try to make every video the viral video. And usually when I'm about to release a video, I'm like, this one's going to blow up. This one's really good. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But every video, we actually put a lot of work into every video that we put out. So when I say we, I'm working with a video editor now. So the first, 10 I edited myself, but the last couple I've had a video editor start helping me as well. But every time I'm about to release a video, I'm grinding the edit, I'm thinking about it, I'm showing people, and people are like, this is really good. And I'm like, this one's going to blow up. So I don't know if I definitely looked into the skateboarding video and tried to figure out what are some of the elements that make it stronger. But I really think that every piece of content that I put out, I want to feel like, yeah, this one has the potential to be a super viral video. This, if someone's, right now, my last challenge, the one that's about to go live, is about morning routines. And so I got up at 5:30 a.m. I analyzed all of these successful people's morning routines, and I put it together in what I think is a really good video. And so if I look at the morning routine content that's out there on YouTube, I think that this is one of the best videos out there. Whether or not that's accurate is to be determined, but I feel like it's a really strong piece of content. And so I feel like it has the potential to go viral. I'm not just putting out some D-grade content and expecting something to happen, and thinking, well, this is, the 10th best piece of content out there. I actually think that, this is one of the nicest pieces of content on morning routines that you'll find on YouTube. And so if that's the case, then it has that potential to start being shared and be interesting enough for people to share that content.
Well, I think that's good. I think a lot of my channel here is into morning routines. So get some extra views, a little bump from that for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, you said kind of like related to the skateboarding video. What would you say those sort of magical pieces were that led to that sort of virality?
I think I would say maybe 3 or 4 things. So one was a really strong intro. So straight from the start, it sets up the challenge really well. And it's clear, like starting from nothing, and I'm trying to ollie, kickflip, grind, and drop in 1 month. So the stakes are set pretty high, and people are like, wow, that sounds like a tough thing to do. And then I think that video, more than other videos, shows the determination and perseverance of me, because that exists in every video, but sometimes it's hard to show. And in this one, it was shown by me falling, really cutting my arm and just, I had like a 3.5 hour session going for a grind, and you could just see how hard I was working for it. And so I think people connected to that. And then also there was just the outcome as well. The outcome was, it's hard to, like when I juggled 5 balls, someone that juggles 5 balls might go, okay, that's really good. But someone that's never juggled 5 before might not understand the skill element involved in that. Or a backflip, people see people backflip all the time, and they don't necessarily know how hard it is to do. Whereas a lot of people have jumped on a skateboard and tried to ollie before, or tried to kickflip and not been able to do it. And so people could appreciate the skill that was involved in that challenge more so than others. So I think those were the winning elements.
Nice. Love that. Cool. Yes, I think what I'd like to get into, like you said, you've been studying the YouTube game for a while here. I want these kind of selfishly for myself. But what would you say are some of the cutting edge things that are going on today? Good hacks to kind of grow fast, get good minutes watched. What are you doing today that's working really well?
Yeah, so I'd say just as a preface to this, I think that there's like a few different types of YouTube channels out there. So there's some that just release a ton of content, and each piece of content, they don't necessarily care if it goes viral. It's just something else that might be ranking for search algorithm, and that they might have a lot of subscribers but get a small amount of views on every video, but they're just putting out a ton of content. And then there's other channels that have maybe one course series and they get more views than the amount of subscribers they get often. And then there's channels in between. So it's important to kind of figure out what style of channel you're going for and what you're trying to model for your success. And so I'm kind of the in between, where I think I have like my core pieces of content that I want them to go viral. And then I have my other interviews and things like that, which are never going to get as many views. But, they're just another way that people can find me, or the people that do like my content can deep dive into it. And so, I think one of the strategies that people use if they're doing like the putting out a lot of content, and just putting out a lot of content. So constantly researching different topics and different ideas and trying to SEO your pieces of content so that you've just got so many pieces of content out there that eventually some of them will start to pick up. And just like you said, that 80-20 rule will kick in, and 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 of them will start to do really well. And they'll drive people into watching some of your other content as well. And then conversely, if you're more holding just the good pieces of content, then really trying to make those good pieces of content as good as possible and as viral and as some of the best pieces of content on that idea. And then another thing that's really supercharged my channel is advertising. So having a really strong trailer, setting up your channel really well with your subscribe call to actions, your default descriptions as well, and things like that have been really good for my channel. And then having a trailer that I'm advertising to a lookalike of my subscribers or a lookalike of people that have watched my videos. That's been really successful for me. And so you can set that up through Google AdWords and you can do some YouTube advertising there. And yeah, I think that's a really good way to start the growth of your channel as well, to kick it into gear. So that way people are watching your videos from the start and it's a little bit more motivating. If you do happen to have the money to spend on your channel, that can be a really good way to kind of supercharge the growth in the early stages.
Nice. I love that. We'll kind of get in slowly towards the end here, but I'd love to kind of one final thing. The fact that you've had, multiple successful businesses in the past, what sort of mindsets do you think from those experiences allowed you to really build this channel to be successful?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think one thing was like fully acknowledging the grind period, because I think because I had some success in the past, I was like, I just wanted to skip through the grind period and I just wanted to jump into the successful part. But fully realizing that there's that grind and humbling period of knowing nothing, but moving towards becoming like a real master and expert in that field. And so that can come from, networking. So, we were speaking a lot about YouTube and we connected to other YouTubers, and that was something that really helped growth of my channel. I did a lot of courses. So I probably did about 4 different courses on YouTube. One of them was $500. One of them was $200. And that was an investment into this idea of what are the best tips and ideas, and can I just get 1 or 2, new pieces of information that could help grow the channel. A lot of experimentation. So trying to really understand like what is the key thing that you're trying to do. And so is the key thing trying to make content that's better, or is the key thing trying to find a channel to promote your content to if you feel like your content's already good enough? Or is it trying to get shout outs or collabs, which was actually another thing that helped my channel early on. I forgot to mention collabs. But trying to figure out like what is the key thing that you really want to be focusing on, and then how do you optimize that or make that better? And and all of those ideas they existed in all my businesses. With my agency, one of the biggest things was how do we scale our lead generation? And that was a really important thing that we were, I put in a lot of time, years of thought into it. Or how do we hire really effectively and efficiently and accurately? And so reading a lot of books about hiring and speaking to a lot of people about hiring and speaking to big company owners about hiring and just going through that process and making mistakes and constantly improving at it. And with my e-commerce business, we're looking at customer acquisition, we're looking at website conversion rate optimization, we're looking at optimizing and automating a lot of our processes. And it's just those key things that you need to kind of slowly become an expert in. And it does take time, but figuring out what are the key things to focus on and then kind of grind through that to get to the point where you have that knowledge and you can move to the next biggest problem.
The thing that popped in my head was like going back to what you said before. You're like, okay, it took me 6 months before I even got 1,000 subscribers, right? And so This was just like a fun hobby. And by then you probably invested, a lot of time and thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars into like, things like this. And it's like, it could have been really easy just to be like, you know what? The other business is going pretty well. I should probably focus on hiring some people and like making more money over there.
Like, was there a time or two where you're like, dude, this sort of little hobby thing is probably not a good idea. Like, let's just kind of stop. And kind of what happened if that did happen?
Yeah. So that period was like the whole 6 months. Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough. I was looking at the content that I was putting out and I was like, this is really good. It should be going better than it is. I was putting in so much effort, like to edit my videos towards the end, were taking me 20 hours. It was really just taking a lot of my heart and soul into the channel. I definitely was thinking about that. But I knew that at the start it would be hard. And I knew that I committed for 12 months. And I knew that, like with a lot of things, you're just slowly getting pieces of information. And it was the same with my agency. Like the amount of times that I thought, I should just quit this and do something else or get a job just because it would get hard and stressful. But as soon as, that one key thing kind of all comes into place, then you just hit that turning point and everything kind of becomes different. And it does take time to kind of find that. Like if the answer was so obvious, then it would have already dried up. If everyone was doing it, then it would have already dried up. So you need to kind of get really knowledgeable so that you can find those opportunities and then leverage them until, you get the success that you want.
I love it. Yeah, like I said, it goes back to the conversation I was having with the person earlier today, because they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do the entrepreneurial route. I'm like, I'm here to tell you, like, the idea is never there at the front. It's like, it really, like what happens is you go, you grind, you hustle, you iterate, you pivot, you make all these mistakes. And then like 2 or 3 years later, you look back and you're like, it's turned into this beautiful, elegant, polished gold nugget. And people see that from the outside. They're like, oh, it's so simple and beautiful. And you're like, yo, the way that I got here was going through the swamp and grinding and hustling. It's like, you have to put that time in. And I think that's what so many people, they just give up as they're dabbling. That's why I say, like, the only way you can fail is like living in the gray zone. Like, you have to commit. And I love the fact that you're like, I'm putting a whole year towards this, because the amount of people I see that kind of go, oh, I'm going to try like whatever company I'm thinking about. I'm going to try some e-commerce thing. And they just like get that first little rejection of whatever it is, or first failed ad campaign. And that's just like, boom, okay, there's another little quiver in my arrow or whatever, quiver in my belt of saying like, yes, okay, this is why I'll never be successful, versus like having to follow through. And I love that, like, if there's anything I've seen with this, it's just like you followed through on what you're going to do,
Yeah, totally.
Sweet. Let's do a little lightning round, finishing up here. Give me like
Awesome.
some of your favorite books. So they could be self-help or like a business, one of each, or top 2 or 3 books.
Yeah, so I think we share some favorite books. So 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, the book that I've reread the most, the book that I've recommended the most. Absolutely love that book.
That one. Yeah, nice. Yeah, it's a good book.
Yeah. Definitely from you. And then Atlas Shrugged and then The Fountainhead. I know 2 of your favorites as well.
Yeah, totally.
They're just foundational books for me about understanding the world, thinking about myself, integrity. And I think having that underlying philosophy helps you motivate yourself and feel more concrete in your ideas, which is really important, particularly when you're younger and you're dabbling and you kind of are on the tip of the idea, but you haven't really clarified it. And getting that, making those ideas concrete is so valuable, I think, when you're a little bit confused like that. So super valuable for me. Yeah. In terms of business books, I really like The Hard Things About Hard Things.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the one that stands out for me. But yeah.
I guess, I haven't mentioned that one much. So tell like kind of the audience what you like about that one.
I think it really hit me at the right time. So there was just so many little tips that I was thinking incorrectly about business that I kind of got challenged from this. Like not telling your team about the bad news and always trying to focus on the good news, or just how to handle some of the hard problems that come up in a business. And the guy that wrote the book was clearly really intelligent, really well thought out ideas. It was very entertaining as well, the book. So it was very easy to read. And a lot of the ideas were like instantly applicable to my business. Another one actually is Principles by Ray Dalio, which to me is like an amazing book, like a dense book, but just so many good ideas in there that you might challenge the way that you're doing things currently. So I love that book as well.
Nice. Cool. Next question. What's the best advice you've ever gotten from a mentor?
Oh, that is a good question. Reading the 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, that was good advice.
Nice. I'll take that. Good. Nice.
Yeah.
Like business, right? I'm sure you've
In
had.
fact, all right. Yeah, this is actually the number one advice.
Okay.
Yeah, to focus. So, and this is one of those pieces of advice that you hear so many times, and I knew that advice intrinsically, but then to hear it when I was detouring was so important. So I was building my agency. I was about a couple of years in. I had a few employees. It was going fairly well. And then this opportunity came up to build a teeth whitening business, which sounds pretty random, and it was. I had no knowledge about it or anything, but I saw that there was a potential market. This guy wanted to do it. And so I was speaking to a mentor about it and figuring out how I was going to divide my days. And he's just like really kind of helped me clarify the idea of focus. Like, he's like, if you want to do this, then you should quit your agency and do this full time, or you should do your agency full time, because there's people that are doing these businesses full time and they're going to beat you. And it's similar to like me approaching YouTube now. If you're giving it only 10% of the effort, then you're not going to find those ideas that are going to actually move you into the next level. And so many times in my life, I've had to focus on something. And that's why, I commit to a period of time. And, I tell everyone I'm committing to this period of time. And that way you can actually focus for a period of time and then set another focus point afterwards. But yeah, focus has been really important for me.
I think that's great, especially from like hearing it from you, who has, like I said, multiple investments, multiple companies, things like that. Like, I think the challenge of anyone as an entrepreneur, like inherent in that is being on some level a visionary. There's a full spectrum there, but
Totally.
That's definitely something all the time that I run into, where I'll get on a call with a client and all of a sudden they'll be like, I had this amazing investment opportunity. Like, I'm going to go for it. Like, I can just tell. I'm like, how does this factor into that vision that you have for like 2 or 3 years in this company? Like,
Totally.
It doesn't, but you're like, no, but it's such a great opportunity. I think like part of it is always just being like, there's always going to be another opportunity, and they're only going to get better the more success you have. And exactly like you said, it's like, I love how you said, like, by putting that time limit on it too, that's like a new way for me to think about it. It's like, and I'm going to use that with clients, be like, well, you can do that, but first, like, how about we commit to 6 more months in your business? Because what happens inevitably is, like, because you've committed that focused attention, it just leads to like, because what happens is, right, you do your thing long enough, you kind of fall out of love with it. And so it's just like, okay, I got to find a way to grow in it again. And yeah, it's so easy to get lost and then just dilute that attention. So I love that.
Definitely.
I'll give you one more. Yeah, I guess, sometimes I'll ask the whole question of like, what would you tell the 20-year-old self? I won't say that one. What would you say for somebody that's like starting off today? You could either go this route, whatever feels more fun for you to answer, like as an entrepreneur or as like a YouTuber. What's something that you could tell them to kind of like give them motivation or like not mistakes and things like that?
I'd say defining a strong vision is really important. So knowing where you want to go, because I think, for my business, we're a multi-million-dollar company now, but my intention wasn't to try to be a $10 million or $100 million company by this point. It was to be where we are. And so I was making decisions and growing at the rate that we only needed to grow at. So I wasn't trying to push it harder than it needed to be. And so that came from a clear vision. And that also just helped me grind through the hard times, because I knew how badly I didn't want to get a job at a company that I wasn't happy with. I knew how badly I didn't like working for people I didn't respect. And so I had a lot of negative things that were avoiding that pain and the pleasure of getting to the position where I can be a little bit more free and spend my time doing what I want. And so a really clear vision really helped me. And then, the other thing is also, and you always hear it, is getting mentors. So, if you're going to spend 50 hours a week on your business every week for the next 6 months, then spend 10 hours a week at the start researching mentors, going out, buying people lunch, putting in the effort, getting a lot of no's on the mentor side. But I think that's a no-brainer use of time. And a couple of key mentors will change your trajectory massively. So it's a no-brainer.
Perfect. Well, yeah, I guess last and final question, where do you want to send people to that love this interview?
The best place is just Max Hertan on YouTube. So if you just type my name, Max Hertan, you should find a bunch of videos about me doing challenges and useful tools and ideas that help me in my life and hopefully help you.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for being, go over there, like, comment, subscribe, YouTube, CTA there. But yeah, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.